So let's get started. Why don't we have the facilitators do a brief introduction?
Patricia, do you want to start?
Sure. Yes. Well, good morning, everyone, or good evening, depending on where you are. Well, the idea for this month is for us to discuss the immaturity, intrudability, holomaturity, and hyperacuity, right, as Michiko was saying. And as we were just discussing for those who arrived a bit earlier, this has a lot to do with the moments we are living, right, with coronavirus and all of that. And I'm sure all of you have a huge list of challenges to share if you want to, right? But in order just for us to be able to cover at least one point of each section, we would like to keep in mind more or less the time to be about 20 minutes or so in each of these blocks. So we are able to raise at least one point of each one of the blocks. Right? So, and we invite you, just like we did, we were present the last time. Yes, you can raise your hand and just say, look, that's what called most my attention. What do you guys think about that? And we also, Christina and I, we also have our list that we can bring topics on if nobody has any points or if we want to push one of the topics, right? So welcome, and Christina, also, if you wanna introduce yourself or say something.
Oh yeah, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. And yeah, I'd like to thank for being here. I'd like to thank for you guys being here also. So that's it. Patricia and I, we are thinking about some suggestions for us today in order to cover the 4 sections. Huge section, important ones, and my invitation is if you could like just do some kind of contextualization with our daily lives or our thoughts, our practical lives. I think that would be better for us. Well, it's just a suggestion. We can talk about the theory, but if you can do some kind of practical approach, I think that we could make more advantage of the proposals of the book. And also if you'd like to discuss the structure of the book as well, because there are a lot of tests in all these sections. And we can also discuss about what you think about this suggestion, this proposal of the book of having a lot of tests, if you have ever covered one of the tests or all of the tests, and yeah, that's other kind of way of discussing the book as well. So, Patricia?
Yes. Well, guys, immaturity, right? I can say that, in my opinion, this is one of the very important points of the book. All of the points are really important, we know that, right? And that's a book I enjoy reading and rereading every time. It's always there for me to reach out to. But when we talk about immaturity, a lot of the diseases, unbalanced points or intrusion or lack of maturity or hyperacuity, they start with that little immaturity of ours, right? Or several seeds of immaturity. So I believe if we are able to tackle immaturity from its beginnings, right? When we still think it's just a silly habit, or when it's still something that we just don't care much about, we would be able to avoid so many problems later on, right? One of the points that Dr. Vieira starts talking about in this session of the book is about being mediocre, right? And how being mediocre can affect us, right? And one of the points here that I highlighted says, with regards to the causes of mediocritization. Look, there are 3 basic causes of the implantation of the consciential mediocritization syndrome: absence of opportunities, absence of creation of self-opportunities, self-corruptions, and skepticism. So I don't know if you agree with that, and what do you think about that? What do you guys think about that? You can unmute yourself. And guys, believe me, I can talk for hours. I can just talk, you know, so please raise your hand when you want to talk.
Can you just repeat the question for me?
Yes, sure. The question is with regards to the reasons why we become mediocre, okay? So there are three basic causes in the implantation of consciential mediocritization syndrome. The absence of creation of opportunities, self-corruptions, and skepticism. Do you think that this affects us in any way, making us becoming more mediocre? Not creating opportunities for oneself, evolutive opportunities, right, I would say? Self-corruptions and skepticism.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's kind of like, why do we, just to invert the question a little bit, I suppose, it's why do we not leave, or why do we not stop being mediocre? You know,
Right?
like you could say, I suppose, in this life we weren't something better. We've always been, you know, in general mediocre. And then the point is, why do we not stop being mediocre? And perhaps those three ideas you mentioned are part of it. But I also thought about the idea of you know, the role of courage, having enough courage to do a frank evaluation of yourself and to want to look. You know, most people don't want to look at their maturities. Most people want to put them under the carpet, or there's that whole idea of self-reconciliation, right? They don't have inside themselves that the balance or the ability to sort of forgive themselves for the immaturities they have and the wrong things they've done, at least wrong in their own perspective, you know, and how they judge themselves. And so it's, you know, that could be, you could look at it as a form of self-corruption, I suppose, not forgiving yourself, which is kind of funny because most times you think, you know, we don't forgive ourselves to not be corrupt. You know, like if we forgive ourselves for everything, then anything, we do anything and we just
everything is okay, right?
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that when you mention courage, right, it's that courage, because like you said, when a lot of the immaturities, we don't have the courage to look it in the eyes, right? So it's very easy to find people to blame for our difficulties or our lack of opportunities or whatever it is that is the case, right? There is always someone or something to blame. It's the family, it's the government, it's the coronavirus, yada, right? So when we say that we want to leave the consciential mediocre state, we are obviously talking about the consciential success, right? We are not talking only about financial success or only about how our family and friends sees us, if they see that we have achieved something or not, right? So I think that our immaturities would be something that the conscious, right, it does a great work. To study the Conscientiogram is one tool for whomever is already very familiar with Conscientiology and wants to go deep on that, look into the mirror. That is not always so easy, right? And yeah, that's what I think. I think to me, it's the same as any cancer. You know, if you catch it early, you can avoid major problems later on, or you can, you know, cure the patient, or you can have an extended life. And a lot of times we spend our resources, time in our heads, money, what we do with the 24 hours that we are granted every day, in and we just don't work with any of that. We just stay on our comfort zone. So that's the way I see it. If we are going to get the bull by the horns, we're going to have to work with our immaturities, big or small, in any given moment, right, of our lives. So that's something not to be ignored if we want to overcome weak traits that have been with us for centuries, for lifetimes. Because we are very smart. We can live anywhere. We can, just keep them hidden in the warm inside of us and do nothing if we want.
Because sometimes it's confusing, isn't it? We don't, because the idea of self-responsibility is in the air, right? Like taking responsibility for your life, for everything in it, and assuming that, right? Like the weight of that on yourself. Because it's impressive how we can look to, like, as you were describing, Patricia, put on other people's shoulders or pass responsibility, like tertiarize responsibility to others. And it's a habit. It's in society. It's all the time, it was someone else's fault or someone else's problem. And I'm in this bad condition because of other things. And perhaps that whole sense of freedom that we sort of seek and want comes when we take responsibility for ourselves. But I also know, I've sort of learned over the years that it's sometimes we assume things that aren't particularly ours, because of the thoughts that are in our head or what our perception. So I'm talking about the interactions with other people. And so how those interactions and how our environment and how other people influence us. And it's sometimes just in a subtle way that you may not have perceived until something changes in your life, and you have a way to compare the past to the present or some other thing. And then you start to see, wow, what I thought was me actually wasn't me so much, that thought I used to have all the time. You simply change house or change location or change something else in your life, and now all those things which you thought was a part of you actually aren't there anymore. And so again, it's sort of like that discernment around your experiences to understand, so it's funny. I suppose I sort of maybe sound a little bit contradictory, right? So I'm saying self-responsibility, and then I'm saying, then there's things in our life where the influence is so strong that it's actually not
kind of
really
a robotization, right? Part of a little robotization that you don't even perceive.
We didn't perceive, and we didn't know ourselves well enough to be able to differentiate yourself from the other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I totally agree.
I think Anna had a question or comment as well.
Now, I was thinking the question you made. I loved this chapter. And I think this chapter gives us a good opportunity to see what's happening now, and with the situation around the world and what we are prioritizing. You can't go out, you can't, you have to be at home. Everything that used to distract you no longer is possible. So you need to internalize, you need to look at yourself and see the things you used to do. We used to do that was distracting us from the priority. And when you talk about opportunities, yes, if I take advantage of the opportunities I have in my hands, I can have experience in life which are more advanced. But as Jeff said, I think it's necessary courage to say, okay, I'm gonna come and choose my path, which is not the mainstream path, not what everybody does. Or not because everybody is going this side, I will go as well. And the self-corruption. And so it's easy. We pretend we don't know. We pretend I don't understand about energy, or pretend the information we don't have and we don't apply. And so it's easier to keep the status quo, I like a lot of this, and the acceptance, that we can't go deeper in the life here now, take a priority of what we are doing now, That's Yeah,
That's right.
yes, Anna, that's what I was thinking, and I was just wonder here, and I would like to hear from you guys. What kind of connections can you make with consciential maturity and prioritizations, and how can we balance our priorities in order to enhance our consciential maturity?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? I think, do you think that there is a strong link between our prioritizations and the enhance of our consciential maturity?
Yeah.
And what are the most important prioritizations for each of us? Because I think that each of us has we have our own agenda, consciential, existential program agenda, yeah. And the courage to, yes, to choose, to wisely choose according to the consciential paradigm and mainly according to the intermissive course. So maybe you can discuss a little bit about prioritization and consciential maturity if you want.
Yeah, I want to bring the chapter, that is the chapter 386, that I think is the first one and is about what you're talking about. And there is one phrase about opportunities that is due to erroneous prioritization. The conscience does not create opportunities for advanced experience in life. And I think that phrase say a lot about if we prioritize good things, you know, we may have more of evolutionary opportunities. So it's the link I saw there, and make me, you know, expand a lot of ideas.
Yeah, yeah, it's self-created opportunities. If we are sitting and waiting somebody to come on a red carpet with a silver plate to offer us an opportunity,
yeah,
next lifetime, friends.
Yeah, and if you just change something in your life, it might make a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes it's small things, but it's a good prioritization, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly what Christina was asking, right? How do I prioritize things that I understand today in my current situation are important for me?
Yes.
Right? And what's my level of maturity? That will show us, because believe it or not, or I'm sure you guys have all different experiences with that, but a lot of times what we do with the prioritization does not match what we want. And we keep within the same, it's another chapter, but the 397 within the same area. Look, test of your consciential immaturity, page 461, fragilizations. Do I intentionally cultivate self-fragilizations to cultivate dispensable sufferings, self-masochism? Intransigence and radicalization denotes immaturity. And the other one that is very simple too, resentments. Machismo, mega weak trait versus mega strong trait. So he will list several things such as resentment, fragilization, and things that we do that take our mental space and we just stay there. And we are not able to overcome the immaturity and prioritize evolution to the maximum of our ability. It's not that we are not doing, but to the maximum of our ability. Right.
Patricia, I think that Renat's wanted to say something. Yes.
Yes, thank you. I was just here thinking something that goes along with urbanization at some point, somehow, because there are a lot of consciousness being brought to this intraphysical life because of the urbanization process, right? And on the other hand, here in an intraphysical life, you see the called millennials that just came from, with the process of urbanization, they feel like they're entitled to everything, and they don't. You can see clearly that there's a lack of they don't prioritize the evolution, right? So my question is, how do you guys see that? Because they are in the early stage of their life, right? So when you lack most in maturity, right? On the other hand, they're part of this urbanization process, right? And that put a kind of knot in my head because they lack in maturity. It's a big urbanization process going on there, and they're young, so they don't have maturity. So if you put that into perspective and you try to picture a future scenario, what you guys think? I mean, I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying here. And then I would like to hear from you what you think, I mean, about this.
It does, Renato. What I see is that you are right. Whenever we think millennials, we think entitlement, right? It's true, it's one of the characteristics listed, and we see this every day. But the way I see is that it has a lot to do with each individual, because some of the negative characteristics of the millennial generation is that, and we know that, right? Because if you are out there, if you are working with people and the new generation comes, you feel the difference, right? So they feel entitled to just take all the vacations and not put all the work, and have a different attitude when they're questioned about the commitment and things like that. But at the same time, I also see that a lot of these very young professionals that are coming in, they are in each person is different, but very dedicated, very committed. They are able to deliver, they are able to innovate, and they're able to bring to the table positive things. So I think it's a characteristic of the generation, the same way as the prior generation to us had certain thought modes, right? Really the format of that, you have to go and grow up and raise your family and bring money to the table, like that set of ideas that you were supposed to do, that you are no longer under that pressure, right, nowadays. So I think, yes, there is the generation, the new breath that it comes with these young people. But I would not generalize. In my experience, I've seen both. I've seen the ones that you say, oh, this is so full of nothing, right? And other people that will say, oh, you see, this person has nobody putting pressure on their back, and they are really committed, and they are really producing, and they are really, responsible with things. So it's an individual condition, I would say. But as Jeffrey was commenting, of course, the environment, the way we are brought about, or whatever is happening around us, will affect us. That's true, right? But the consciential level of maturity is unique, and you will see great people. The same time, right? We see those news that say, oh, this guy already started university, 15 years of age, or created a solution of a big sanitization problem in the favelas, created the whole. So there are good contributions, not only bad things, but I agree with you. It's sometimes it can be a little annoying.
Yes.
I think, yes,
sorry,
go ahead, Renato.
Just a final comment here. Yeah, I don't like much generalizations as well. And well, I mean, quantitative wise, I would say there's a lot of good things coming from this new generation, right? But there's a lot of also, I mean, like not evolutionary things going out there. But I do agree with you. I think some of the young people, like some young personalities, are able to create projects that would kind of lead groups and then make a difference, right? And perhaps that will offset the other, I mean, not seeking to evolve in life, I guess. I mean, I see it. I mean, I don't want to be the pessimist here, you know. I think it's going to be better in the future. But sometimes when I think about this situation with the millennials, it gets a little bit complicated. Yeah.
I'd like to add another perspective, a complementary one. I think that for them, this area is very hard because there are a lot of pressure, there are a lot of opportunities, there are a lot of information, there are a lot of possibilities. And, you know, we live in an era of abundance. We can say that in English, abundance, yes. And I was thinking about when it was like, when I had 15 years ago, 15 years old, it's a long time ago, but it's easier. And now I think it's so complicated for the young people, you know, and that's why I think there's so many pressure on them due to the priorities that they have to take. And there's so many possibilities, and everyone is okay. So I have to, and this holoful scene of we have to be the champions and we have to be good. So I think that I think it's a supposition because I'm not 15 years old anymore, but I think there's a lot of pressure due to some kind of, we are slightly change our paradigm. So you're not the success paradigm anymore, and we're changing to the maybe contribution paradigm or more self-awareness paradigm. We got into the world challenges that we are facing right now. So this generation specifically, I think we have to do a lot of see them as a potential and try to enhance their strong traits maybe, and yes, that's one question that I was thinking here. Do you think that as intermissivists and as how could we talk about the consciential paradigm to this specific generation? How could you bring some issues or some questions to them in order to maybe wake up to them, their intermissive ideas? Because I think that there are a lot of intermissive people from this early generation, a lot of conscials as well, but a lot of intermissive people. Yeah. So how could we approach them in order to, because there are a lot of information right now. I don't know if you agree with me, you know, a lot of information, a lot of good things, a lot of really good stuff, good ideas. Yes. And they are good. Not only conscientiology is good, a lot of good ideas. But how could we approach this young generation in order to wake them up and say, okay, if you have some kind of intermissivist ideas inside your head, yeah, what are your prioritizations right now? Yes,
I think that if we look at the millennials, I mean, first of all, I don't think there's ever been a generation that hasn't been worried about the generation that comes, right? But I think the millennials, from what I've seen so far, what they are very much about is doing things on their own terms, not on, you know, a big employer's terms or society's terms, but on their own terms. And they're also very source critical. So they know that all the information is available out there, for example, on the internet, but they also know that there's a lot of false information. So they're very, from the beginning, they're much better than us. I mean, myself, I'm quite good at this, you know, internet thing, but I'm a dinosaur compared to them, right? So from the start, they're extremely source critical. They don't trust anything that's posted on the net just offhand. They go into the source. So I think finding out or sort of speaking to their terms, so their way of doing things, not like, you know, this is a big organization that does this particular way, because that will not appeal to them, I think. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I think Evelyn brings up a good point in that, you know, the millennials don't seem as naive as our generation maybe, you know, when I'm speaking to my younger nieces and nephews, and you know, you point out something that's on the internet, and they're like, well, Auntie, you know, that you can't believe everything you hear and say. You know, they're the ones teaching us about the principle of disbelief. So I think that may be one approach that we could use, because like I agree with Evelyn, that's something that's a strong trait of theirs, and also because they have so much access to information now, I find that they're a lot more open to new ideas. So like, you know, if I'm talking to my nieces and nephew about multidimensionality and, you know, other things, it's not foreign to them. They don't automatically close down to those kind of new ideas. So I think that's another approach that's really good with the millennials.
And I agree with Michiko. Now I'm having more opportunity to get in touch with my nephews and nieces, and they grow up and we have conversations, and I see that the approach is from an equal. I can't come to them as I know everything, or I'm above you, I'm older, or whatever. So they have a good critical sense, at least when I talk with them. And as you said, they are open to everything, but at the same time, they want to honor the right of have their experiences. They want to honor the right of thinking by themselves. What I observe, they don't want to be convinced of anything. They don't want to be imposed of any ideas. You can talk. Okay, that's how I think. And it's very interesting because yesterday I had a walk with my two nephews, and one of them, and I've been talking about how important it is to sleep, and he said to me, Aunt, it's important we sleep before 10 o'clock, isn't it? And I said, yeah, it is. Why is that? And then he said, because of melatonin, no? He's 13 years old. And I said, yes, that's true. And then he said, that's why you sleep at this time? And I said, yes, that's one of the reasons. And so it was so cool to see that he was open, but at the same time, he brought me the information, and that's it. And then we start to discuss other things. So I think that's one of the approaches that's cool. I think bring questioning now, not you have to do that or that. Imposing.
Guys, just switching within this topic, but switching a little bit more towards intrusion, right? Intrudability session. And well, you know, I made few points here that called my attention. In a nutshell, I believe all of us here that we are already studying the 700 Conscientiology Experiments, we don't necessarily need to discuss here how bad intrusion is, how many problems it can bring to our life, right? We already know that, and we probably have personal experience as well, right? Because we are not Serenissimis here. But I think we can look more from lenses of, okay, and please feel free to add, okay? What's your experience and what do you think? But how can but first, do I notice intrusion in myself? 2, do I understand, or do I have any clue what are the links that open the door to intrusion in my case? 3, do I do anything about it at all? Do I work on something? It doesn't mean that you have to be an expert or total overcome that point by now, but do you have any idea on where to work about in order to overcome the link that connects you or us to intrusion, right? And how can we do the prophylaxis of intrusion to work towards an intrusion-free condition, which is one of the major goals of, you know, self-knowledge, self-studying, and all that conscientiology brings in terms of tools, vibrational state, self-knowledge, and all of that, right? What do you think about that?
Well, I would like to contribute to a very good point, Patricia. One of my basic technique that I use to study to do my self-research is based on my something happened that disturbing, you know, well, about my well-being and my humor, because I think we need to be aware around us all the time. I mean, about our energy, our thoughts, our sentiments. So I use this kind of technique. So there's some trigger that after I realize, oh, I have this point, I need to go deeper. So my humor,
Right.
something that's disturbing me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to have at least a north, right? For you to know, okay, the wind is blowing that way. Let me pay attention, right? And to avoid a complete intrusion or losing control in a major way, right? And working towards health, of course, working towards minimizing those episodes, right?
I agree, João, and I think it's about to know better yourself and recycle, you know, because then you know where is your fragilities. And sometimes I see a pattern, you know, in where the intrusion comes and where I'm fragile and where I, you know, slip, I don't know how to say, escorregar, no, right? It's there, it's always there. So I think, sure, penta, vibrational state, but I think a change of your toxicity will come if you do a recycle. You know, you change your way of behavior, way of thinking, you know, and that usually takes some effort to, you know, like people were saying before, to look to yourself and see where is the point, you know, study yourself. So self-criticism is a good thing also.
Yeah, trying to make some kind of connection between the points before, do you think that the lack of prioritization is a kind of self-intrusion?
Yes, I think so. It could be, right? Because when we don't have prioritization, it's hard to achieve any type of goal in any area of our life. And that, of course, builds up frustration with time. And then you get lost again with your resources, and then too much information, too many options. Everything is in abundance, like I said. And at the end of the day, you blink and you say, oops, another year passed.
Yeah, that's it. That's a kind of dispersion. When dispersion, is that the word? Yes. So, and then I'm trying to bring the last points that we discussed about the abundance of information, the abundance of possibilities and opportunities, and then this could lead us in a kind of dispersion, and then this could bring us to a kind of self-intrusion, maybe.
Or maybe the self-intrusion takes us to a lack of prioritization. For instance, the person doesn't value themselves. They don't have good self-esteem. They don't think that they are good enough. And that will affect what they prioritize. And then it started to have a difficulty to put their prioritization into place, because it's a distraction. If I don't like myself, anything that comes, I will accept. And so I don't define who I am, what I want, what's the time in my life. Could be that point as well.
Yeah, I think that's recurrence logic. Yes, what leads to what? Yeah.
But
Yeah, but
you know, if
but the key point is how to stop it. How to stop this? Yeah, it is the prophylaxis and the therapeutics of this. Yes, Magali.
But if you don't know yourself, you might not prioritize what is for you. You might prioritize things that other people say that is good to do. Sometimes when you don't know anything and you come to Conscientiology and you see there is lots of opportunity to experience new things and know better about your prioritization, what you want more. But sometimes I think it's difficult to prioritize if you don't know yourself.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. I agree. And I was putting some points here that I think it has to do with what you guys were saying. And one of the highlights, I don't have the chapter number here, but it was self-confrontation to work into solving that problem, right? So at one moment, we will need to do more of self-confrontation when we notice our immaturities, when we notice our tendencies, when we notice where intrusion connects with us, where the door is open, right? Where the fragilities are, like Magali said. So it's not to be taken lightly, like, right, Magali, like you said, oh, we have to put some effort. We have to put a lot of effort. It's not an easy task, but it's worth it, no, because that will be, again, when we are talking about self-intrusion, which will lead us to have less external intrusion, it's like a building, right? It's like a construction building. We go little by little, and you only see the results sometimes later on. It's not immediate. And when you are taking these steps for self-prophylaxis, it's not easy. It doesn't taste good, and you don't feel good, right? It's like, it's hard, but the results can show later on, where we have less self-intrusion, and as a consequence, less hetero intrusion as well, right?
And I guess one of those things is like, because at the moment I'm in this process of investigation and diagnosing some things. And it's interesting because you have blind spots. Sometimes you just can't see them. And this is coming back to like immaturities as well. But yeah, you have to go down that path. If you don't go down that path, then you're not able to recognize those things, or have had that hetero help, you know, going through those processes of the Conscientiogram or Conscientiotherapy, and then for you to actually, yeah, recognize, you know, you have those things, and then start working on them. But it's interesting. You need to just start working, going down that path, because if you don't take those steps, you're not going to eventually get to the point, yeah, where you recognize those things within yourself.
I got stuck with what Christina said, about the prophylaxis. To not enter this again and again and again and again, you know. And I think there is a little bit of everything. I start to think, yeah, you need to look at ourselves and say, that's who I am, that's where I am, and embrace whatever we find about ourselves. And from there, I can confront the life. I can choose without a fear. If fear, I think it's one of the biggest self-intrusion we can have. Fear of being rejected, fear of not belonging, fear of not having success, fear. And you paralyze yourself. Fear even to feel sadness, fear of, and I think this is one of the biggest issue for the self-intrusion we have. Because of fear of not belonging, we choose a path in life that's not ours, it's the other person's life. No, and I think it's embrace and see. Yes, I'm a fearful person. What's my biggest fear? No, and there we start to improve from that. But what I found is quite difficult if we don't accept our own immaturities, if we don't nurture, in a sense, not that, yes, I am like this and I'm gonna always buy like, no, not that, but recognize, yes, I am like this. I'm authorized to be imperfect. And from there we can go. But I would think overcome fear, it's something that can probably help a lot.
Yeah, that's a good point, Anna. I think that fear is one of the biggest self-intrusion that we could have. And one very good technique is just to make a list of our biggest fear, what we fear most. And sometimes we fear not to be good enough, but sometimes we fear to be good. That's another point, when you fear that we could be better than we thought we are, or better than people said we are. So this is one of the fear of okay, and if I'm a better person than I think I am, so this will take me to another stage, and I have to assume more responsibilities, and then I have to open all the immaturities that I was so attached before. And of course I'm going to assume new immaturities, but the fear of being a better person. And I think that sometimes if we do not think carefully, even conscientiology could lead us to this kind of fear of not of you understand what I'm saying? Because we have you are dealing with principles, and the stage is right here, okay? And sometimes we tend to compare ourselves with the Serenissimos or the Epicon or I don't know who else, yes. But and then this fear of not the content, not to complete our existential program, the fear of not being so good as this personality, yes. And this block ourselves to see what we have already achieved, and also to celebrate this. I think that this celebration of, okay, I have already achieved this, I have a lot to achieve, I have to achieve more, but sometimes we tend to talk more about our weak traits and less about our strong traits. And that's what sometimes I feel that if you do not pay attention, even conscientiology could lead us to a self-intrusion state.
Yeah, Chris, what you said about fear, and there is the fear to be yourself, fear to be yourself.
Yeah,
fear
fear to express what you think, as we have said before. Fear to express your freedom, like free will, yes, and fear to even to disagree, and sometimes to be different from the majority of the group here. So even within the conscientiology group, maybe we have to pay attention not to be in the mediocrization stage. Okay, so that's one point, that not to, also to make a link with all the topics we have said before.
And Chris, it comes.
I think it's that about that fear of be yourself is always come with the repression we feel, and a lot of conscientiology is about the repression. We have people that repression because we are, like you were talking guys before, we are from a generation that was more repressed, and we couldn't do whatever we want to, you know, wasn't the world like it is today. So I think today has better environment for people that is borning now. So I think this de-repression we have to do by ourselves, you know, and try to walk with fear, because I think deal with fear is something, because we're never gonna be without fear. You know, if we are being that fear, we are not getting new chances, new things, because always new things is gonna bring fear.
Chris, there is one thing when you were talking about this, came in my mind, the here and now multidimensional, here and now multidimensionality. Now we are here and we are now. It's a cut in our evolutionary process. And sometimes, because we talk about the super serenissimos and we have a set of standards too high, what you said, it's quite appropriate. Sometimes you don't recognize that you are good enough because your standard, your eye is over there. You're not here. That's who I am. No, as a result of the multi-existentiality, as a result of my existential program, those are the skills I have, which I'm going to develop. But sometimes, because we have our eyes over there in the future, or we have our eyes on the back or the past, you don't embrace that and probably create this, what you were saying, no? The fear of being different, the fear of acknowledge and recognize what makes us singular as a consciousness, because despite that we are in a group, nobody is, because we always study conscientiology, we are different from each other in terms of walk path that we are bringing, you know, our backgrounds and everything.
Yeah, yeah, and that could lead us to the other section, that is the holomaturity, and that is this ability of dealing with our own singularity and the link of this behavior with holomaturity. Because again, the importance and the value of us to recognize our own singularity and the capacity of living in a group with a diversity of personalities, with a diversity of approach, with a diversity of intermissives coming from different para hometowns, we can say that. Yes, very hometowns. And so this is what I think the most big challenge for us. The first, I could say that, I don't know, the first intermissives that we are meeting each other at this time here. So how could we handle with our own singularity and in order to cultivate our own intermissive values and intermissive principles, but living in the diversity and respect the diversity of ideas and try to work in an integrated way, but without convincing anyone and without trying to put in a standard of behaviors. Yes. So I think that is the most challenge for us now, for me. Okay, I'm going to talk about me. I think that's my biggest, one of my biggest challenge now is this, to value my own singularity, respecting other singularities, and try to, and try hard to work integrated without because without the tendency to say, okay, you should do this is the best for you, and as Conscientiology said, we all should do this and that. Yeah, what do you think, guys, about that? Now we are jumping to holomaturity sections. It's a big one.
Has a lot to do with authenticity, doesn't it? Like, it was interesting to talk about fear, because, you know, we see a lot of things in society generating fear or insecurity, and we all have that desire to feel like we belong, like we fit in, we're part of a thing. And sometimes that leads us to not necessarily respecting our own individuality sufficiently. And so that concept of authenticity and respecting differences and allowing differences and working within that for the greater good, for the collective good. So whether that be on in a group scale or on a broader scale around the planet in different facets of life, interacting with others. Like what good is it if you're great at doing assistance, but you interact with nearly, a handful of people? If you're great at doing assistance, why not try to interact with a lot of people, and that's sort of our challenge, is to have that authenticity and that confidence to back ourselves, maintain our own opinions in front of resistance and other ways of thinking, So not to say that we have to be famous or known or anything, but to do what we need to do for our own existential program. What does that entail? Communication's a massive part of that. Assistance is a massive part of that. So how are we going to approach that? It's a challenge I have, and trying to understand better as well.
There is a verbete that I like a lot, isogênese. Professor Waldo, isogênese. For me, it's one of my favorite verbetes. And he talks about the ability, he talks about world government and so on, but he talks about the ability of us respect the other consciousness, or respect the conscious to be who they are, whatever they want to be. And I think that's one of the things, at least for me, it's important nowadays. Even though someone thinks completely different from me or make a choice completely different from mine, and I can have some suggestions and so on, but that person has the right to decide what they want. And I don't need to be telling the person what to do. And I think one of the things that comes in terms of being able to be working in a team, it's be able to respect someone's choice, even when that choice, it goes against your principles, whatever, but it's that choice. After that, I choose what to do with that. But and you were saying that we have lots of information and you want to give the information to the person, but they don't want. They look at you, I'm not interested in what you have to say. And so what? I'm going to fight with this person. I'm going to get attacked up and say, you have to. No, I have to step back and say, okay, as we do with ourselves, like that. No? And so I think respect, it's a word that we need to understand deeper, no? And put cosmoethics and everything. And self-respect. If I don't have self-respect, I'm not respect the other. And I think start everything in ourselves.
Okay, guys, what do you think about this subject? Respect, holomaturity, singularity, and I just put in for the group here, in this section, what caught my attention in this section, this chapter 435, avoidance of useless sacrifice. And this make me think about, okay, we have useless sacrifice, but if we have useless sacrifice, we do have useful sacrifice. So what are the useless sacrifice and what are the useful sacrifice? In order for us as a measure for our holomaturity.
And guys, we also want to invite whomever did not speak, feel free, okay?
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you came in a little late, it's not a problem. You can express yourself too.
Fernandez, Liliana, hi Juliana, how are you? Evelyn, I don't know if you're still there. Pamela, Carla, hello Carla. Okay, so
I was
Okay.
I was thinking about the fear. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking about the fear. And once I was taking a class with Rui Bueno, and he was about re-education, consciential re-education. And he was saying that the thing is like, we always gonna have fear, but the problem is like fear cannot stop us to do things, right? Fear is gonna be always here with us, right? Fear of failure, fear of rejection, but we need to do it anyway, even with fear. Then is a way of overcoming, right? More we do it the same thing, even with fear, we will overcome, right? I don't know. It made sense for me that time. And this is what I'm trying to do. Like every time I have a situation that I have fear of doing it, I try to expose myself to that situation.
Yeah. Because fear has its evolutionary role, right? It has a specific role in the evolutionary process. Yes, it's not so bad to have fear. I think that's how you deal with them, how we approach them, and how we overcome them. But fear is good. Somehow fear is good. The main reason if it's paralyzes us. Yes. Yes, Juliana.
I know that fear is a basic emotion, so it's related to our organic or somatic brain. But I don't think that we should. I think that you said is right, and some people say that exactly what you said is the definition of braveness or courage, is doing beside the fear. But I think that at the same time, that idea that we should keep going and we are always going to have fear is something that doesn't set well with me. And because we are people who have brains and we are like part animals, like, because it's a really basic emotion. But I don't think it's like that. I think we can really overcome that. And we can, maybe not all fears, but we can start to have less fears. And there is I don't see nowadays, if you like, for example, let's think about the last year of your life. What really feeling fear helped you? I think it will be like really, really little, not many fear situations. And although the fear has this, that is organic response, that fight or flight and everything like that, I won't be talking about that because everybody knows that. But I think really think about it. When you needed that, being like a modern place nowadays, it's really like an exception. And most of the time, fear has a really bad effect on you. And even in psychology nowadays, they realize that bad emotions make you sick, even in your body. There are a lot of new studies showing that. Chronic stress and many things like that. So every time that I have some kind of fear, I try to overcome that, understand that, see if there is some kind of reinforcement. Usually I'm talking about intrusion, because if you like feel like bad for like 5-10 minutes, usually in my reality, I have some kind of intrusion after that period of time. So, and what I think is that why it's so bad? Because as Christina said, I totally agree, it paralyzes you and doesn't make you think right. It's actually a discernment reductor. And so I think every time that you have fear, you should not think like, oh, I think that's right what you said. There is this organic part, but I think you should try to overcome that and understand and have less and less and less fears. And there is something that I realize about myself, that many of my fears are not even real. Like there is this quote that says that you suffer more in your head than in reality. It's something like that. And there is another quote that I like a lot. It's about a Brazilian writer, the Olavo Bilac. And in one of his books, once I read that fear is the father of all beliefs. And in belief, I mean this kind of thought or saying that it's not, there is no rationality that is related with just these necessities of believing, that is related with emotions and things like that, that is not clear in your head. So it's related with brainwashing and things like that. That's what he means, that how people start to put things in your head, even in intrusions, is about this kind of this kind of way. Including fear is the main one of the main points of getting someone with intrusion and self-intrusion is the fear, is one of the main keys. If you are like a professional intruder, you try to find the fears of the person, really. So
Yeah.
That's interesting, Juliana. Just one thing I want to come with fear. It's you don't, because there is two sides of fear. One is I don't want to have fear, and then the person just, you know, avoid fear, and then become other sentiments come, and the person starts to be sad because have fear, or even nervous because have fear, and
self-guilty.
Yeah, lots of other sentiments. So today we have to learn how to deal with fear. Like you said, most of our thoughts, it starts our fears. So most of them are not real. It has not to do with the reality. So we should learn more about emotions and in a certain way deal better with the emotions. And deal better with the emotions is not that you're not gonna have it, because as you said, it is organic, it is physiologic, and it's automatic reaction. But with the thoughts, if you start to deal better with fear, and it tends to become less in your life.
Oh, Magali, I'm sorry to interrupt, because I think it has to do with what you're saying. Carla can correct me if I'm saying something, it's not what you meant, but what I understand, I see all the points Juliana is making, and those are interesting points, but I don't think that's what Carla meant. From what she said, I understood that it is exactly that moment, the fight or flight. Should I go or should I stay, right? And it's not saying that, yes, we should live with fear, it should be normal to live under fear. I don't think that's what she meant. I think what she, and you correct me, Carla, that is like, okay, fear exists. It is a sentiment. It is part of what we deal with on a daily basis. And then, yes, we can dig deeper, like you are describing, right? Okay, what do I feel? Where this fear comes from? Can I live with it? Can I overcome it? Can I understand it? So I think it's complementary, but it's not necessarily not to deal with the fear, right? Or not to, I understand that when you say completely overcome fear, yes, for example, today I don't have a fear to go into a swimming pool, but maybe 20 years ago I did, right? So I literally overcame that particular fear. But it doesn't necessarily mean that all fears will be excluded immediately. They will not. And we have to learn how to proceed, even though Why? Because when we did the self-reflection that you describe, the mental soma has decided, yes, I want to proceed even with fear, and then you proceed, right? So I think that is the tiny moment that she was describing over there, but both complement.
Exactly.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
yes,
Yeah, I think the fear, at least for myself, it's a great opportunity to ponder about anything that is causing me to feel like, okay, what's going on? I feel fear, then I'm going to stop and ponder, right? And then move and then make a decision. So for me, it's a trigger that puts me into a thinking mode to where then I start sorting things out, you know, because and then at the end, it's something that I think that has potential to help you to overcome situations. I think. I don't know if it makes sense for you guys. It's a good way to see fear, you know, I guess, because you know, for example, if I could say, like, if it could be prescribed, right, have fear, I only think that maybe for risk maniacs, you know, if I could prescribe them, hey, have fear, you know, you're gonna die, but it doesn't work like that, you know. So I try to use it as a opportunity to ponder and think.
yeah, fear
Fine.
could, fear could push us beyond our limits, yes, but fear could also paralyze us in order to overcome our limits. And yes, so there are two two reactions, yeah, fight or flight. So yeah, but what I was thinking about is what this fear of new ideas, the fear of being different from what we are used to be. I think that's one of the biggest fear that we should really overcome. Yes, because sometimes when we face some new opportunities, and we are talking about opportunities we've been talking in the beginning, yeah, and we have the opportunity to be someone different, and this fear the fear of being different from ourselves could be paralyzing. So I think that what the Conscientiology principles offer us is the opportunity from us to free ourselves from the fear of being different from what we are used to be and what makes us safer. I don't know if you understand, because when we do not have this kind of, this is the courage, yes, in order to face different approach of ourselves. I think that's the main issue that could be characterized as self-intrusion, of being paralyzed, of not be able to face new realities of ourselves, our consciential, yes. And this brings us to the next section, that is the hyperacuity. Did I say it right? Yes. Could someone
Hyperacuity.
Hyperacuity. Yes, hyperacuity, and the recuperation of cons. Yes. So sometimes, in what ways the fear of being different, the fear of being a person, maybe sometimes totally different from what we are used to be, could block out the recuperation of cons. Yes. And I think that this is the most, one of the most serious self-intrusion pattern. When we block ourselves from recuperating our cons, recuperating our megacons from the intermissive causes, because this could lead us to be a person completely different, or sometimes completely different from what we are used to be. And this could lead us to an insecure stage, because we are so used with our own way of style of being, and when we are challenged to be different, to be better, the better version of ourselves. Sometimes we fear that. Do you guys feel this kind of fear? I do. I sometimes do.
Yes, I want to add something. I knew Conscientiology not that much far ago, and this one was one of the main points that I liked, because we have this free atmosphere to think, to look for ourselves according to the persons which we are. And previously, I didn't feel it so much. I used it to go to Spiritism, and we have the doctrination and the yes, the doctrinations, because of the religion. It's not a bad thing, like definitely it's better than many other things. But for me, I feel, for me it's quite important, the freedom, the atmosphere of freedom, and to be myself and to look for my shadow. Like I like this thing to look for, when we are talking about the intrusion, to look in which part of myself why this thing is coming on. Then I will think I had some problem in my past which came from my family. That's why I have this psychological response, this emotional pattern. Then intrusions can come with my history of life according to the place which I came. For me, Spiritism will teach those things definitely, but not that much deep. How can we learn with these teachings?
And what were the main difference, the different tools that you find out in Conscientiology approach, Pamela? Different from the Spiritism.
Oh,
what caught your attention?
My attention, it's because...
what was your password that linked you to the conscientiological ideas?
I don't know much, okay? I'm learning everything now, but, I'm thinking the freedom to be yourself.
Okay.
Can you understand? And this thing to don't have that much shame, to go in some shameful points of yourself and some shameful points of others. And one thing that I like it so much in the Conscientiology, it was these things of, they are telling crypto messages, synchronicities. I have the synchronicities, the studies of the synchronicities, and the hidden messages, crypto messages. This thing for me, it was one of the main tools, and also those energetic works.
Okay.
Because I think this one will make all the difference in your perception, and because you become more active. In the Conscientiology, you speak so much about the importance of the whole being, the food, the exercises, the nature, the bioenergies, to think about yourself, to reflect and meditate about yourself, the self-knowledge. It has that atmosphere of thinking, to decide by yourself, to make the exercise to think with those techniques of 5 hours of reflection, of the immobility, and you try to make yourself by yourself better. I like this idea so much. And the studies of the synchronicities, because I always had some perceptions no one can explain, okay? I had tried to talk with friends. I have some sensitive friends from Spiritism and another philosophy. No one can explain those things of, in Portuguese, they are telling crypto mensagens. I don't know how to translate for English. But no one can explain many things that I only got the explanation with the teachings of Conscientiology. I have, now I started, I will tell, like I always had some things, it's very strange, but only now I understood. For example, sometimes I'm walking on the road, okay? Going somewhere, going to the class, going to the gym, then I see some person. any person, then that expression in the way of that person to walk will remind me another person from my personal experience, and that expression of the person will teach me so much about the situation which I'm living. And sometimes it will give me some protection or some understanding about my personal situation. And only in Conscientiology I could be able to find this. I heard one class, Conscientiology, some weeks ago, the teacher, he was telling, sometimes you are sitting in a restaurant, the talking of the person in another table will have some message for you. I had those things and I never found any explanation, only with Conscientiology. I always thought, oh my God, I have some problem. It's something from my mind. Now I started to become more attentive with the messages of the universe. Sometimes numbers, sometimes places, sometimes the clouds, sometimes the nature. I always had this, but no explanation. I thought it was it's my mind travel. Like I'm like that, but no, more people have explanation. Some people are exploring such kind of universal messages in a serious way, searching this. Then I like this thing. For me, these are the differential things.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, what you are saying, it's your personal experiencing regarding hyperacuity. Is that right? Because you are developing a sense of reading between the lines.
Yes. And I'm believing more this. If now I'm looking the past. If I believe it more, the hidden messages, I will avoid many problems. If I had this knowledge previously, now I have seen how much life is teaching with the small things.
Yeah, because what you're telling is just mixing this hyperacuity, being more attentive, observing, and try to reach this, what you're saying, crypto message, but also with your energetic signs, yes, your signalética, your signals, yes. So you are trying, you're developing yourself in this hyperacuity in terms of multidimensional way, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for sharing. It's a very good example, don't you think so, guys?
Yes, it's good. It's good because it's not a normal talking. Like, it's not everyday talking. It's good to can share.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Putting things into practice and having your own experiences and using these techniques and this knowledge as a way to enrich your life, you know, to define better who you are and understand better the context and the movements. It's nice. It's great.
Yeah, without fear of being happy. Yeah, that's another fear that we should definitely, yes, overcome. Fear of being happy, of smiling, of feeling good, despite all the sadness in the world. But we have this right, yes, and we have to use this right of feeling good and be happy, yes. So Pamela, very nice. Thank you for sharing with us your experience.
Thank you to listen to me and give support.
Yeah. In my perception, the energy field has like lighten up. Yeah, you bring like a fresh air to the energetic field with your experience. Thank you. Because it was so authentic and so heart-telling. So thank you.
Yes, no, definitely. This is life experience, you know. When I was very young, I used it to look to the sky, okay? Listen. I with all those clouds and shapes, I was very young. Then that thing started to telling me some histories, and it was giving me answers to my inner problems. Like I would look in those clouds and those shapes with the wind. I came from Brasilia. Brazil, it's a very high altitude city. It has a very beautiful cloudy sky. And then those shapes with the wind, with the clouds. And I started to disbelieve those things with the time because of the people, the doctrinations and concepts. But with more time, I understood, no, it has message. It's truly, it's not something only from my mind or something like that. No, it has some really spiritual meaning.
Yeah, I don't know if you had a
And with
chance.
the society, I started to don't pay attention. But now I thought, no, it's truly, I need that thing back for me. It's good.
Yeah, the study of synchronicity is one of the highest topics in the study of conscientiology. I don't know if you had a chance to attend the synchronicity course that Jarbas Paranhos gave, like I think that 2 months ago. But yeah, it's not. I think that it's going to be launched again, and everybody who did not attend the course before could attend it now. I think that in the next month maybe we're going to have all these courses available. But if I could give you a suggestion, maybe you could try to attend this course, Synchronicity, so you can have more information or add more information in order to enhance your own studies.
I watched one tertulia of this teacher. I like.
Yes, Jarbas Paranhos. Thank you. So, Michiko and Magali, I think we end that. Yes. So, Patricia?
Yes, no, I think it's a great opportunity to be talking about this. Again, my feeling is that it's so brief and we could talk so much more, right? But it's still, that's the time we have, and I think it's profitable to everyone, at least to me. It's a great experience. And all I can say is thank you, guys. It's great to be with you, and I learned a lot. I think it's great to be here, and it's a great beginning of the day here for us in our time zone. So a great way to start the day. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. So Cristina, you want to?
Yes, I'd like to thank everybody as well. And yeah, so a lot of ideas, but it's a challenge for us to be to talk with these big ideas and big proposals in an hour and a half, but that's okay. That's we are developing our objective sense, yes. And yeah, I was thinking about if we just each of us could like doing some kind of closing phrase, or not. You're not if you don't want to say that, but try to make a link between the 4 sections that is like immaturity, and then intrusion, and then holomaturity, and hyperacuity. How could we link the ideas of these 4 sections in our daily lives? Yes, and I think that the main topic here was, the main topics were fear and self-responsibility, yes, and the importance for us to overcome our fears and the self-responsibility. What else? What are the main idea that call our attentions here? Just one word for each of you. For me was overcome my fears. What could summarize the talk here?
Me too.
One phrase of one word.
I think to me was the fear. I never thought about the fear of become oneself, like the real one. That was interesting. I never thought about it.
Okay.
For me, self-de-intrusion.
Good.
For me, authenticity.
For me, self-confidence.
Yes.
Communication.
Yeah, self-authenticity for me as well. Yeah, authenticity.
For me, it was authenticity and prioritization.
Right.
Yeah, I underlined prioritization 3 times, so yeah.
Good. So we have
Okay.
like our word cloud of the with summarizing our talk today. So thank you for so much.
I think Fernandez, do you want to say something? I think he didn't say anything. Or
No,
no?
I didn't say. For me, it was courage, the word.
Okay.
Okay. So guys, we have to close. So we like to thank Patricia and Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you to be with us, and invite you to the next meeting that will be in September, 19 September, with Jacqueline and Regina, and we are going to talk about continuity, self-conscientiality, evolutivity, and seriality. So let's carry on with that work. I hope you can read some chapters. If you cannot read the whole sections, that is 4 sections, at least some chapters is a challenge. So that's it. Have a nice weekend for those that is starting. And see you next meeting, okay?